This episode is in partnership with Authority Magazine. Authority Magazine, a Medium publication, is devoted to sharing in-depth and interesting interviews featuring people who are authorities in business, pop culture, wellness, social impact, and tech. Okay, so I'm going to offend today's guest right off the bat by suggesting that many of the songs he's written are more famous than he is, if
But
that can be the case.
but I think that Eddie Schwartz, the artist, is used to it.
After all, those songs like Hit Me With Your Best Shot, which I'm sure everyone knows, were all chart toppers. Eddie Schwartz, welcome to Believe in People.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it.
You don't know this, but I interviewed you probably 50 years ago.
Are you serious?
Wow.
I was a student at Ryerson, Toronto Metropolitan University, working for the underground newspaper, The Eye Opener. I was covering all the music that was playing at the Edge, which was Edgerton's. And this fellow from over Spadina somewhere, which happened to be you, I think you lived in that neighborhood.
Yep.
And I interviewed you about an album that you had done called Schwartz, I think. Wasn't that the name of the record?
Yeah, that was my first album. Well, that would have been, I don't know, 79 maybe?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So we
So
had
you know each other. That's amazing.
yeah, we're old friends.
We're old friends.
We're old
Absolutely.
friends.
I know I look the same as I did back then. I'm sure you do too. So.
Yeah. Well, so now we have a sort of a half an hour to like dissect everything that you've done since
until that point.
that last interview. This is this is the second time that you've agreed to talk to us, or me, basically. But no, I just wanted to say that because back then I was like scared to death of people and scared to death of everybody I interviewed, and you were one of them. And now here we are talking again. You have made your career out of writing songs that other people have done and have had great success doing it. Is that a good thing for you?
Oh, it's been miserable every step of the way.
I hate it. I hate it.
I can't. The depths of despair have been, plummeted or something along those lines, plumbed. No, it's not exactly where I wanted to go in 1979 because, as you just said in your intro, that I did my own album, poetically named Schwartz, and I think at that point I saw myself as an artist, and the songs that I wrote were for me as an artist. And the fact that other people started recording them, and that's kind of where my career went for a couple of reasons. One, as you mentioned, I was very fortunate about who recorded them and the success they had. And then, of course, being in the music business, there was a lot of pressure on me to say, for people said, well, why don't you just keep writing songs for these other artists who are already well known? Because that's an easier path than trying to establish yourself as an artist, which is a much, you need a label, it's expensive, it's an arduous, you've got to go on the road. And on that point, I had a girlfriend at the time because I was in bands and I was going on the road, playing, the Maritimes all over Canada, all over Ontario, small towns, bars all over the place. And she said, so wait a sec, so you could just stay home and write songs and we could hang out and you could make a living doing that? So I said, yeah, I guess that's true. So that's what happened.
And
By
then
the
where
way,
did this come from,
she's in
Eddie?
the room. She's in the room next to me right now. We've been married now. So.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. Is she still singing?
She's no, well, she's an artist. She's a visual artist, actually.
A visual artist.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you did tour with Charity Brown.
Charity Brown, yeah, absolutely, all over Canada. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you miss that part of it, Eddie? Is the performing?
Uh, there's things about it I miss. I miss the connection with the real audience.
Hmm.
Um, um, it's a tough gig, though. I mean, playing bars every night, you have to love it. I didn't love it because you've got to schlep your gear. Um, we couldn't afford. Well, we had a roadie. I think we had one roadie and with charity, but a lot of the bands I've been in, we had to, we had an organ and a real acoustic piano, and the band carried this stuff sometimes up 3 flights of stairs. So, it's for the young at heart, and maybe just the young period. I think, it's hard unless you've got, listen, I have a lot of friends who are my age, my contemporaries, Lawrence Gowan, and I just saw Bill Henderson and Chilliwack
Yeah.
a couple of nights ago at Massey Hall. We're old friends, and they're doing it, but they do it, they can now afford to do it, right?
Yeah.
They have the roadies, they can fly in a day or two early and have a nap before the show, so it's hard unless you are very successful at it.
Yeah.
When you were, I mean, did you ever, okay, so we have to talk about Hit Me With Your Best Shot, which I'm sure you're sick of talking about, but when you're writing a song, I mean, you didn't write it for Pat Benatar, or did you?
No, I didn't. I wrote it. In fact, it was originally on Schwartz, Kevin. Now that you bring that up, it was
Hmm.
on that album, and there's an interesting story about how she heard it, how it got to her, and my publisher slash production company, which was ATV, was a British company. They had a little band called the Beatles. Um, they said, "Well, we're going to take it off. We want you to take it off your album." Because this young lady, Pat Benatar, is going to get a big push in the States and globally. So we're going to take the song off your album, and you're going to have to do another song. So I recorded another song, and the rest is kind of history.
And where was this motivation for you? Like when you were a kid, is this something you wanted to do as a kid, or did somebody guide you? How did you get involved in this in the first place?
Good question, Amy. I was I think like many young people, I was troubled. I didn't know how to fit into I had my family that was not exactly particularly functional, living in Downsview, Ontario, near the Air Force Base up there. You guys may
Yeah,
know what that's all about.
yeah.
And so I was kind of in a dysfunctional family, and um, I was a bit of a loner, I guess, or at least I felt alienated. And it's really being a teenager has always been tough, and I'm sure it still is. So when I discovered music and songwriting, um, it was life changing for me. I think it kept me alive. It kept me going through. I had a place to put all those emotions,
Yeah.
and the all of the stuff that goes through your head, and the emotion, and your body's changing, and all that stuff. And music really it kept me alive. It was just the most important discovery I think I've ever made in my life in terms of what I wanted to do with my life, and from the age of 12 to today, in a few years. Um, that's all I've ever wanted to do, and I'm
How
very,
did you know you were
very.
good at it, Eddie? Like how did you hone your skills, your craft?
I think that was just sheer stubbornness because everybody told me I sucked for about the
Okay.
first 15 years, including my parents, um, including my
When
friends.
did they realize, like, oh my God, he's got something here? When was that?
Probably when they heard "Hit Me With Your Best Shot" on the
Yeah.
radio, and they went, "Oh, okay, I guess." No, but yeah, but it's that kind of business. I mean, look at it. There's a million kids going around today who everyone's telling them they suck, and they go be a dentist, or a lawyer, or whatever. You're never going to make a living. And some of those people will be the next Chapel Roan, or the
Mhm.
Yeah.
next Bruce Springsteen, or who knows. So
Just
it just comes with the territory when you're a young person trying to make music, that everybody tries to steer you in a different direction.
well, I saw the on the plane flying home yesterday. I watched the Led Zeppelin documentary, and Robert Plant's parents wanted him to be a chartered accountant, and uh, and he almost was, and so there you go. But I want to ask you about the Canadian side of it. You are living in Nashville now, but you also maintain residence in Canada. Is the Canadian music business that difficult? Is it that much of a wasteland as it's often described? You know, people say that Tragically Hip never made it in the States, therefore they never made it. I mean, do these kind of things, are they like a thorn in your side?
Uh, well, Canada's difficult. I mean, however I mean, this has always been a very difficult way to make a living, precarious, even for people like me. You know, just because you had, Hit Me happened and I had some success in the early '80s doesn't mean that a year or two later everything was going my way. It was certainly very helpful. Don't get me wrong, but it's an up and down business. You have a hit one year doesn't mean you're going to have a hit the next year or the year after that. So it's always been a tough business, and because Canada, especially when I was growing up, when we were, you were interviewing me in the late '70s, it's a small market. And, you get so little per sale, you get so
Yeah.
little per play on radio that you'd need that big market of the United States, to be honest, or, for our Francophone friends, probably, France, where you have a much bigger Francophone, and other countries around the world that
Mhm.
speak French. So you just need a big market to get to the numbers. I mean, a gold record in Canada back in the day was 50,000 records. I don't know, that would have paid me a few grand. A gold record in the States was 500,000 records. So um, it's about that scale. You have to scale up, and the only place you can really do it is the States. So again, I was very fortunate that, um, frankly, ATV opened an office in New York, and there was a guy there who liked what I did. ATV, they had an office in LA at the time. They hated Hit Me With Your Best Shot. The vice president said it was the worst song he ever heard. Um, Fortunately, the guy in New York called me and said, "I like what you do. Is there a song I haven't heard?" And at that point, I hadn't played. I had sort of put Hit Me on the back shelf. And it's a bit of a story, but um, I said, "Yeah, I got this one song everybody hates." And he said, "Well, let me listen to it. Let me hear it." And he was in New York, and he was working at Chrysalis Records. Still, he was about to move to ATV, so he had a couple of weeks left at Chrysalis. So he got the one tape I had of the song. I mailed it down, snail mail back in the day, and he got it and started listening to it in his office. And Pat Benatar heard it in the office, and so yeah, I mean, luck, but it could have been any song, but that's the song that cut through. So that's how that happened.
Just for folks listening in, who else has recorded your songs?
About
Who hasn't?
200. Yeah. I don't know, Rascal Flatts, Martina McBride, and since we're in Nashville, Joe Cocker, 3 songs, Donna Summer, Carly Simon, Rita Coolidge, Robert Palmer, Meatloaf. Not me, no, yeah, Meatloaf. Sorry, Meatloaf. Take that back. America, um, Mountain. I don't know. I
Eddie,
could
who are
go on.
you writing for now?
Lawrence Gowan.
Yep.
Yeah.
With or without sticks?
Without. This was pre-Sticks.
Yeah.
Who are
Yeah.
you writing for now, Eddie?
I'm really just doing my own stuff. I'm just writing. I put out a few things. In fact, I just sent something to radio in Canada. It's a song
Mhm.
called We Win. Um,
That's
there's
appropriate.
yeah, and it's a song about, um,
Unless you're a Leaf fan.
yeah, it's not applicable in
One
that
day,
particular. You found the one case where it's not applicable. No, I'm just kidding.
58 years.
Um, yeah, God, we don't really want to get into that, do we?
No.
But
Oh,
yeah, we win. It's about, at a time when I think it's very hard for a lot of people, like now.
yeah.
It's a song about what gets us through and what's important and what is winning. I think it's been defined very much along by the current president of the United States as making a lot of money no matter who you hurt. And this is a song that, shall we say, takes a different view of what life's all about.
May we hopefully can play it at the end of the podcast with your permission.
Absolutely, I'd be delighted. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Special Girl? Because that actually is a song that's stuck with me for almost 50 years.
Wow. Well, I mean, thank you so much for that. That means a lot to me. It was so as I mentioned, my girlfriend back in the '70s said, "So you can stay home and write. Why don't you do that?" And uh, we did break up though for a little while, and somewhere along the line after we broke up, mostly at my instigation, I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. And we've been together since we were very young. We met in high school, and I guess I sort of, geez, I wonder what else, the world has to offer. And we broke up, and for about a year and a half, and I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. And that's the song that came out of that kind of heartache. Um, and when I wrote it, I realized, well, maybe there's something I can do about to correct this mistake. So I went and I basically begged her to come back, and we got back together again. And as I said, she paints in the room next door, so we're still
Who,
together all these years later.
who's recorded that song?
Well, that was one Meatloaf recorded, and America. They both recorded that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I prefer your version. So there you
Well,
go.
thank.
Eddie, what are you most proud of apart from Hit Me With Your Best Shot?
Well, Special Girl's really up there. So I think Kevin, I really appreciate that. And I've got to say, you're like most creative people, you always kind of like the thing you just did last.
Yeah.
So I think "We Win" is a song that I'm very, very proud of, and I'm excited to share with people, see what they think. Um, I have to say, of the songs that I got cut, "Don't Shed a Tear," Paul Carrack.
Yeah.
Mhm. Great voice.
Um, there's just so few people that even hold a candle to him vocally. He's just an amazing singer. I always idolized him years before we met, and so I think that's probably one of the two or three of my favorite covers that I've ever had, because I just respect him so much. And then we went on and wrote a song on his next record called "I Live by the Groove," which did pretty well. But "Don't Shed a Tear" was, got into
That was
What's
top.
great
the, what,
song.
Thank
what's
you.
that song he did with Squeeze?
Tempted. He sang on "Tempted."
Tempted by the Fruit of Another. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Again,
That's how
it's
great
a great
his
song.
voice is. And
And I mean, and those guys know how to sing. So when they turned it over to him to sing, I mean yeah, he's
yeah,
he's a he's a he's an incredible. Not only that, but he's a virtuoso keyboard player. I mean, he's an amazing musician. He's all round incredible talent,
was
like
he an
Larry
ace
Gowan.
as well? He was
Yeah,
an
he was ace, and he wrote "How Long," that first big hit they had. How long has this been going on?
yeah.
He wrote that.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's a great songwriter, great singer,
Those
great
are good.
musician.
Do you like collaborating, Eddie? Do you write alone or do you collaborate with others?
The reason I moved to Nashville is because this town is all about collaboration, and I did a lot of it for a number of years, and I had the opportunity to write with Rascal Flatts when they were just getting started. So yeah, that was great because Gary LeVox, I don't know if you know that band at all, but he's an amazing singer, and that was a special writing experience because I'd be working on a line and I'd go, I don't know if this is going to work. And Gary would say, well, let me sing it. And he'd sing it. And I would go, oh, yeah, that works. Because he's just such a great singer. So, yeah, it depends on the person. It's all
Yeah.
about the person. There's the Nashville thing is so intense because you're writing, you've got a writing session from 10 till 1, 3 hour session. You're expected to finish one song at
Wow.
least. Then you have lunch from 1 till 2, and then you write again with either the same person or somebody else from 2 to 5 every day, 5 days a week, and you're expected to write a second song. So every week your publisher expects you to turn in 10 songs.
Jeez, that's crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
That's
And
like
and
a brill building thing or something.
yeah, but I think that's that, and there are people who do that in this town incredibly well. They can do it and they turn out good songs.
Hmm.
And maybe some
Like
of the best
Saturday Night
songs.
Live. It's
Yeah.
like, you know?
Yeah. So I did that for well, maybe the first 7 or 8 years after we moved down here. But I realized that it really wasn't. I wasn't doing my best work. That wasn't the way that I you know was meant to write songs. So I stopped doing it. And then it took me a few years to sort of like find my way back to the way that I wrote songs. So it was a process. So, and I'm glad, that's why I'm very excited about We Win and the things I'm writing now.
I
Um,
can't wait to hear it.
yeah, great. I hope you like it.
I just because I brought up the Canadian thing, I mean, didn't Rascal Flatts cover the Tom Cochrane song
Yeah,
"Life is a Highway"?
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
didn't that put them on the map, kind of in many ways? At least it put them on my map because it was "Life is a Highway." Now
Yeah, I think they crossed over to pop. I think they were country, and
yeah,
that was the song that brought them into the spotlight in terms of um yeah, outside of the country genre, I think.
yeah.
In fact, I don't know if you can see, there's a that over there is the six, it's from Rascal
Oh
Flatts,
yeah.
from
Yeah, I see that.
yeah, it's a
Oh,
little
cool.
small, but
Um, so on that thing, there's an interview that it actually might have even been on Q, which is a CBC radio program. It was an interview with Linda Ronstadt, and she basically said there must be something in the water up there, referring to Canada because of the songwriters that have come from Canada. And she was referring to Heart Like a Wheel, which she recorded from the McGarrigles. She was referring to Neil Young, whose songs she has worked on. Um, is there something in the water up there, Eddie?
well, it really sets me up because I think what's in the water is that it's frozen for about 6 months every year.
That's not so bad.
Hey, yeah.
I
And
could I could skate. I could skate. I
God,
could skate. Whatever is a case of you, right?
well, exactly. And but I do think the long winters. I mean, climate change is changing that. Although there was a tough winter this year, I know. Um, but I do think there's something about the winters, the long winters, and being indoors and yeah, seeking the warmth, and music plays a big role, I think, in Canadian culture because of that.
Mhm.
Um, so
Newfoundland.
yeah, I think there's something about it must be in the water, but like I said, because it's so cold and frozen, and um,
They have time.
that's yeah, I think that's and and we're so um, it's a big piece of real estate with not a lot of people in it. I mean, that's changing now. But when we were growing up, it was what, 20, 25 million people
Yeah,
across this huge country. And I think that creates a kind of yearning to connect and reach out. And
yeah,
maybe that's in the mix there somewhere.
Yeah.
yeah. And of
And,
course, I left out Lightfoot there, which who I'm remiss to
oh, well.
Gordon Lightfoot of anything, Annie and Tyson. But
And Sylvia Tyson, and
yeah,
yeah, and Joni Mitchell, and we could go on and on and on.
Eddie,
Leonard
who haven't
Cohen.
you written for that you want to write for? Who, like, name them. Maybe we'll make it happen. Let's go.
Well, years ago, this is more of a regret, and I would love to correct it, but Bette Midler called me and wanted me to write a song for her. And I was not in a very good place at the time. And I did not accept her invitation to write a song for Bette. And I've often thought afterwards, wow, what was wrong with me? So
That Midler.
because I love Bette Midler, I love her, and I just was just not in a good place, and I didn't come up with anything, that didn't have any ideas for her. But so yeah, there's somebody I'd love to write a song
We're
for. Or
tagging Bette Midler in this.
okay,
yeah. Why not?
Absolutely.
But how about like with things like Spotify and all that these days? I mean, what do you get? Like 1 millionth of a quarter of a millionth of a penny for a song now? If
Yes.
play, I mean, what's the future of music coming from someone who I interviewed 50 years ago?
it's so daunting. Yeah, I mean, again, that's we were lucky, very lucky, that you could make a living, even though that was relatively meager back then, if you got it, if you scaled up, as we know, as we talked about earlier, it could add up to something. Now, yeah, 1 million streams. I think if I get 1 million streams, it's like $30 or something like
Yeah.
that. I can buy a pizza. It's just, in fact, I did a graphic. I did presentations where I had a gold record. This is what it used to be, one of those beautiful gold records, and then a pizza the same size. So now this is what you get for 1 million streams. So it's very daunting. It's very, very hard. And my heart goes out to all those incredibly talented people that are struggling. Spotify, should never have been allowed. It's, that, and the fact there's still a free tier, which means people get all that music for free. The advertising revenues don't add up to anything that could possibly sustain songwriters or artists. So that's very daunting. And now that we've got generative AI, which is ingesting everyone's music and then spitting out music that competes with our music, and we're not getting paid for that. It's a very daunting and troubling time, and more so than I think ever before. And I spend time on advocacy. I do that. I'm involved with organizations that try to push a very big boulder up a very steep hill to get creators properly remunerated, because if millions of people are enjoying your work, surely you should be able to make a living doing it.
Exactly.
And not just eat pizza.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And well, actually, so considering, I know we're wrapping up, and I want to ask you, Eddie, this is called Believe in People. I'm going to flip this. Why do you believe in the music?
Well, I believe in music because I think music made by human beings, let me preface it by that, is, I think culture is so important, and I think it's underrated. The music of our lives, it kept me alive. I think it keeps millions of people alive. It enriches our lives, not just music, but all art, all creative endeavors. I think there's a lot of mental health issues for young people. In my time, I think it's even worse now than it was then.
Yeah.
And I think learning to play an instrument and learning how to create, put the computer away, just get a piece of paper and a pencil and learn how to be creative, I think is there is nothing that is better for the soul and the heart and the psyche than being creative. I let me just add one other addendum, since were talking about technology. I think technology should always be the vehicle that takes us somewhere. Technology is not the be all, not the destination. It's not the be all and the end all. And so I'd like to return, or to start thinking about technology as the way we get to a better place. And that better place, I think, is human creativity. So as long as it's in the service of taking us there, it's okay. I don't want to leave the impression that I'm anti-technology. It's just, it has to be a tool for human creativity, not dominate. Or just,
you made me, music comes from community, like look at those kitchen, rambles that, the ramble in the barn with Levon, or Newfoundland around the kitchen table. These kinds of things were all community, and it's kind of hard to have a community if you're all staring at your phone and not and listening to electronic music, which I think is what you were describing earlier, in terms of feeding everybody's tunes into a giant future machine and then listening to what it spits out. But
yeah,
what an educational half-hour conversation. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
Oh, well, I'm delighted, and thank you guys both so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed it. Great to see you after all these years, and to meet Amy. So
I
there you go. Thanks, Eddie. I'm looking forward to hearing your song. Yay. And thanks so much for being with us here today.
My pleasure. Thank you so
Schwartz,
much.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, I get why you're down. We play it straight. play the clown. Time to turn the whole damn thing around. It's come unwound. All those games on the bench, all those years in the trench, all those monkeys with a wrench, it makes no sense. But if love counts for something, we win. If love counts for something, darling, you gotta count us in. Yeah, we could sure use a whole lot of better in our lives. Love counts for something, we win. Does the fox outrun the hound? Do the lost get found? Will better days come around? Yeah, they'll come around. And if love counts for something, we win. If love counts for something, darling, you gotta count us in.